Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready?
The implementation of sex education in school with 10 to 19 years old students remain as one of the controversial topic in Philippine society up until today. 80% of Filipino citizens are against with the implementation of the said subject matter. This is according to our research findings of the sex education in the Philippines. Besides, there are still many Filipino who strongly propose this subject to be implemented by presenting facts that provides advantages of sex education. Sex education, by definition, it is the provision of information about bodily development, sex, sexuality, and relationships, along with skills building to help young people communicate about and make informed decisions regarding sex and their sexual health. Today, we will witness the proposition and opposition side presented by our debaters. Two groups will critically present their argument against and in favor with the resolution of sex education implementation must be mandatory to Philippine education, consisting of 4 members each group. Along with their strong evidence and facts, together let's investigate and criticize whether sex education must be mandatorily implemented or will remain as option to individual. Now let's allow them to formally begin.
A pleasant day to each and everyone. Our group firmly believes that sex education must be implemented mandatorily here in the Philippines, targeting the teenagers, specifically school students that ranges from 10 to 19 years old, for the very reason that it is exceedingly beneficial and will uphold common good. In 2010, the World Health Organization provided us an official standard definition of sex education. It is the learning about the cognitive, emotional, interactive, and physical aspects of sexuality. It aims at supporting and protecting sexual development. It gradually equips and empowers children and young people with information, skills, and positive values to understand and enjoy their sexuality, have safe and fulfilling relationships, and take responsibility for their own well-being. So basically, it is crystal clear here that sex education is not about sex itself alone, and it does not encourage students to engage to sexual intercourse. In fact, it will feed the students all the necessary information and concepts that will help them understand why is it important to be responsible and careful when it comes to this sensitive topic. It could decrease the risks of having unsafe sex and increases responsible family planning to help address issues like overpopulation, high rates of teen pregnancy, and the rise of HIV. And it also helps us avoid STDs, or sexually transmitted diseases.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I am extremely against with the implementation of sex education. It is because the faces of the young people all over the world are still redeemed by the intense embarrassment they felt during the sex education classes. In a recent study published in the BMJ Open, it examined the opinion of young people ages 12 and 18 who had received sex and relationship education from different countries. The researchers were able to draw several conclusions. First, is the school did not recognize that teaching sex is a distinct subject. They don't take into consideration that sex is potentially uncomfortable and anxiety-provoking topic. Then the information was unreliable, worthless, and unfairly biased for heterosexual intercourses. There wasn't a lot of relevant information, such as letting students know about the local health facilities, letting the students know on what to do if you get pregnant, what you do if you get pregnant, and also the advantages and disadvantages of various birth control options, but rather stereotyping and imbalanced view between male and females. was visible, which only promotes discrimination and embarrassment to one parties or both parties. So I, with my group, are extremely against with the implementation of sex education, especially here in the Philippines.
I really respect your arguments about sex education, but first and foremost, we should be implementing sex education. Why? Sex education should be implemented and taught by trained teachers. Growing through the adolescent stage to young adults, all of us have fulfilled deep curiosity. That's why it should be part of the curriculum, and through this, we could be informed properly about sexual education. Moreover, 10 pregnancies in the Philippines are common, where 9% of women between ages of 15 and 19 are start childbearing. Furthermore, according to UNESCO, only 34% of young people worldwide know about HIV prevention and transmission. Sex education have incredible knowledge has given by which help us a lot and be our guidelines in the future. In fact, 2 out of 3 girls in several countries have no idea what's happened to them when they start menstruating. Sex education should be very relevant in today's world. All of us is needed to be open-minded about this issue. It is important to ensure young adolescents have information that they needed to grow. First of all, teaching and learning sex education, it doesn't encourage sex. In fact, it is raising awareness about our personal boundaries. It is a really high time to normalize this topic because when we talk about in general, it's said it is considered as a source of information for the young people, especially in the present time. And I really do agree sex education should be introduced in schools before it's too late.
The provision of too much or the wrong kind of sexual education can destroy the innocence of the students. The primary teacher of children are their parents. It is their right and responsibility to teach sexual morality to their children. Sex education will just give curiosity to the students and will encourage them to be sexually active instead of awareness. Most of the opposition to sex education is based on the assumption that when young people learn about sexual possibilities, they will readily and without restraint indulge in sexual activities, especially to those who don't actually have knowledge or idea about sexual activity because they're out of curiosity. This curiosity is coherent to the 5th stage Sigmund Freud's psychosexual theory, genital. To prevent vexation, the person must achieve genital satisfaction. Thus, this is the peak of adolescents' curiosity and desire to indulge in activities to overcome carnal pressure. So, implementing sex education could indeed corrupt the students' curiosity and incline them to engage in sex. They are not at risk of experimenting with sex. They are at risk due to the sex education they receive.
I did not agree because implementing sex education in 10 to 19 years old students is very important in our generation to be wise and to be aware. And I believe that having open, honest conversation with young people about sexual health, identity, and communication is essential approach to help them develop healthier relationship, bodily autonomy, and eliminating domestic violence, gender inequity. Also, I remember Jose Rizal said that ang kabataan ang pag-asa ng bayan. But where is the youth that Jose Rizal talking about? They can because of their curiosity, they get them pregnant early. That's why we need the sex education to provide young people the knowledge they need to have healthy decision making. The decision they make can affect their health and well-being for the rest of their lives. Have healthy relationship, to be ally to those who are marginalized, and love themselves for who they are, and to avoid unattended pregnancies and sexual transmitted infection.
It was mentioned that Jose Rizal said, ang kabataan ang pag-asa ng bayan. But the youths now are getting pregnant early. Yes, many youth are getting pregnant now because I do believe that teaching young people about sex and relationship will encourage sexual activity. That's why sex education should not be implemented. And in our research findings, many youth reported that sex and relationship education can be negative, gendered, and heterosexual. And aside from that, many teachers are not always adequately trained to teach sexual education to students, which may cause wrong decisions and can lead to the young students' knowledge about the subject being improper and unfinished. And according to the survey of Irish Times, there's a parent who was against favor sex education. And she stated that as the sex related to the discussion, it may attract to the teenagers. So they used to take of interest in sex discussions. This is very harmful for their health and their curriculum and co-curricular activities. Children don't need sex education. They need chastity education. They need to learn how to say no and why saying no is in their best interest, which are the physically, emotionally, and spirituality.
We strongly propose that sex education must be implemented mandatorily in the Philippines, specifically in schools with students ranging from 10 to 19 years old. By definition, this provides an important and necessary information that will help individuals to have a proper decision making, become responsible, and help them to have awareness about sexual health. This proposition supported by legal research done in different universities, international and local. Sex education would give equal knowledge to both males and females and help them know when their sexual health is violated. Conclusively, in our proposition, it must be clear to everyone that sex education does not only open sexual knowledge, but also it can open the minds of individuals about the reality of life and help them to think maturely about the sexual health aspects. And it is not only for our own benefit, but also it can be a great contribution in regards to the success of a certain society.
We are in opposition with the implementation of sex education because by definition, it ruins both mental and physical anatomy of a person. It opens curiosity that leads individuals to search far beyond the limitation about sexual activities. In another area during sex education, there will be stereotyping between male and female and balanced view that would result discrimination and embarrassment. According to the book Teaching Sex Education 2022, inadequate education in the subject can have opposite effects. So for example, in a case of teen are not taught adequately about the proper use of birth control, they might still carry out the activity improperly and then get pregnant, falling into a severe problem that scarred them for life. On the other hand, the attitude of the guardian can often be very negative towards sex education classes, as they can feel that their children are being introduced to a subject that we're better not knowing of. So this phenomenon can create severe conflict within the young impressionable minds of the students. And most importantly, boys and girls in their very young age will be forced to examine and discuss sexual functioning and sexual activities that they are not prepared to go through. For us, we are opposing sex education. It must not be implemented. It must not be mandatory. But let's normalize it to make it as an option to an individual.
Now, as what you witnessed, both parties provided an argument and reasonings along with evidences and facts. The question that remains is that whether sex education in the Philippines should be mandatorily implemented in school or just an option to individual. The proposition side provided various arguments with the support of facts and evidences. It is clear that sex education helps individuals to have a healthy relationship, sexual health awareness, and strong decision-making. And in the contrary, the opposition side provided also strong arguments that directly oppose with the proposition. They presented evidences, facts, research findings, and data survey that tells us the disadvantages of sex education. Now, according to a study presented in the scstack.com, there are three models of decision making. We have the rational model, alternative model, and the political model. From the rational model, by definition, it is said that individuals consider different factors and think rationally to make a decision. And in alternative model, by definition, said that individuals decide regarding and disregarding the factors that influence them, they decide independently. Now, going back to our topic, it is clear that there are several factors that will influence the decision making of individual. So sex education will only one of the support system. We can implement it mandatorily. It can be also an option to individual. But the fact here is, everyone behave according to their own will and not only by the influences of information they receive and the personal influences they have in their life. The influences and information is just a support system, but the decision itself about sexual aspect remain on individual's inner self.